Hello and welcome back to another IronCAD tutorial video, and today we'll be going through another Toby practice model dated 10/08, the jack bracket. So looking at this model, it's a little bit more complicated. However, it's just a series of changing a few sketches, adding some cylinder holes. We'll use the IC mech tool hole tool to create this hole here. Then we'll also use some drafting to create this ridge at the 12-degree. But we'll also be able to do some editing processing within the 2D sketch to create these rib features here as well. So what we'll do is we'll go into the sketch or the block here. We'll add an extrude block. We'll right click it, edit the cross section. So the first thing we'll do is we'll remove this section here. And so we need to create that bottom radius. It has a radius of 40. Okay, so a radius of 40. Then what we'll need to do is we'll add this 2-point line here, having it go straight up, adjusting it to be 165, and then we'll actually make this line for construction because this will be our guideline. We'll have another line here going the other way across at 142, and we'll find the midpoint. We'll have it here. We'll also make this line for construction, and then what we'll do is we'll fix these lines. Okay, we'll add the center radius here. For this point, this has a radius of 28 millimeters. Same for this side, 28 millimeters. And now what we can do is we can add these 2-point lines. Before we add the 2-point lines, we'll fix these circles as well in place so they don't move. We'll add 2-point line here, 2-point line here, and 2-point line here. And what we'll do is we'll go back to make sure that they're tangent to these lines. So we'll come back with a tangency, tangent, tangent. Okay. For each section, we'll make them tangent. And what we'll do to reference and to check is actually we'll extend these lines. See, it extended it to make sure that it was fully touching. So we'll extend it here. So once again here, here, here. Then we'll extend to here as well. This is a little tip that we can use to make sure that the lines are fully touching, to make sure that they're fully tangent, so that when we trim, they automatically go to each of the arcs. And so this fully constrained. So we'll click OK. The total depth of this is 18. I'm sorry, it's 18. Yes, so we'll make it 18. And here's our base. So now what we'll do is we'll create this starting cylinder here. The top of this cylinder down to the bottom of this cylinder has a total height of about 59. Okay, and then the total diameter of this is 54. All right, then we'll come here to this next cylinder here. We'll add this cylinder here. This has a total diameter of 40 with a total height from here down to the bottom has a total height of about 37. Okay, and now what we'll do is we'll also add this middle cylinder here. Go to top view, and we'll actually use this here to drag it to line up well with this cylinder here. Okay, and this cylinder here in the middle has a total height of 107 from the bottom, so we'll make this 107. Okay, so now what we can do is we can actually go in and actually, before we complete this section here, we'll add this middle portion. So we'll add the square here, and this base here from this point to this point is 40. Okay, and then we know from this point here to this point here is 37. So we can adjust it as such. All right, so now what we can do is we can go into this cross section here and actually edit this part here. So we know that this section here, okay, we'll make sure this is horizontal. And then to double check, once again, we can add dimensions here to make sure this is correct. So make sure that's 37. Come here, make sure this part here is also 40. Okay, make sure this is horizontal. All right, and then what we can do also is make a 2-point line here, starting from this point down. Make it for construction to make sure this is all even. So we can move this over to the side here. We can move this over as well. Okay. Make sure it's even. Okay. And so what we can do now is we can add the project lines on this end here, which would be like our guides, which we use to create this little gap at 14. So we'll have this, and we'll fix these 2 points so they don't also move. And then we'll add a parallel constraint from here and here, from here to here. And we'll add this section to be 14. All right, and we'll add this section here to also be 14. And then what we'll do is we'll come back with the fillets to create the fillets at 17 radius, 17 radius, 17 radius, and 17 radius here. To make it easier, what you can simply do is add 17, 17 here, and then mirror it over. But I want to select to show you the down and dirty version. Okay, so we'll click OK. Here we are with that middle gap here. And then what we can do now is we can now simply come in with this extrude block here. We can use Q to simply adjust it to where it's in the middle. Okay, and then we can make it 16 like it was. We can come back here, adjust it, adjust the height. So from here, the bottom to the top is 55, and then we can simply adjust it here like such. Okay, so we come in from this side, we can see. So now what we'll do is we need to make this part here the 12 degree. So if we click here, we can actually see where the point is on the side. So we need to rotate this 90 degrees before we draft. Okay, so if you go into the draft, you click on this face, you'll be able to recognize where we can use, right, the point on here. So we need to rotate this 90 degrees from here, rotate it 90. There we are. Okay, now what we can do, we go into the draft, we'll click on the neutral plane, which will be this face, and then we'll click here 12, and we want it to be negative 12, so it goes opposite, so it goes up in this direction. Click OK. There's that section. Now what we'll do is we'll come to the back, add a block there, we'll adjust the height here, move this over to meet at this point, move this over to meet at this point, go to top. Once again, we know that this rib is 8, so right click to make sure it's 8, and then what we do is we can go back to the back, right click it once again. Once we get the correct point, right click once again. Okay, see. Okay, edit the cross section, and we can adjust. So we can remove this top point here. Okay, have this come over just a little bit, create this line, and then we can simply extend this point up to where it meets. All right, what we'll do now is we'll add another center point down, make this the construction line, and we'll fix this in place as well. Now we can create this section to be 15, because the total degree on each side will be 30, and we'll be able to create this section and this section here to be 85. That's the total length, so 85 divided by 2, which is 42. Okay, and for here, what we'll do is we'll add this up to make sure that this is horizontal, and make sure that this is vertical. I'm sorry, yeah, make sure this is vertical, not horizontal. Okay, yes, and as you can see, the higher it gets, there's like a gap here. That's because before we forgot to adjust the total diameter of this part here, which is in turn, if you go back and look at the design, 52. Okay, so now that it is connecting there, okay, so we can go back in here, verify 42, 15. And to make it easier for ourselves when it comes to adding the hole, we can simply draw a line from one section here to another section there, which we can then trim so that we can have this part. Okay, all right, so now what we can do is we have to go back in here actually and adjust the total height of this part to reach here. Yes, there we are. Great. All right, so now what we can do now is we can add the holes here. One hole there. This hole will have a diameter of 28 through. This hole here, we can go to the IC Mech tools, have the hole. This is using this hole here. This hole has a total through hole of 20, which is already set. This total hole here is 36, 24 in depth. Great. Click OK. Select it. Great. And then we can have the hole here. This is a counter bore or a countersink we can use here. It has a total depth or hole depth for this point be 20. The top part needs to be 40. The angle will have that. Add this there. Click OK. Remove this. Okay. Now to get it on the other side, like we see here, we'll actually go to the mirror feature. Click on the scene, this section, and this section here all together. Make sure we have it all selected. We'll choose actually on the edge this point. Then we'll click OK. And to save us time, actually, we see that this part here is intervening with the hole. We can simply take this mirror and we can move it up, and so that actually it comes in turn for the hole. We can adjust the properties, and if we go to the properties, click here. Here is our mass at 5694. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.